Welcome to my house. Buck here. I'm back with another one, guys. This is another video in the beginners series, the beginners guides. The last one we did was on what was it? The services and tools. So we went through all that, the services and tools. So I thought the next thing in line is we found out all about the game, how to throw a pole out there, how to catch a fish, what all of our gear means to us and everything. I thought, well, now it's time to go fishing and kind of learn a little bit about the fishing techniques that are utilized in this game. And they mimic almost all of the real life techniques that us anglers use to fish. There's only a couple of techniques that they're missing, and hopefully we keep our fingers crossed we'll get those down the road, but we'll see. However, I thought we'd go ahead and discuss these, and these, like I said, this is the beginner's guides. You guys that already know, this is for the guide, and if you guys have never fished before, don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. And I use guys because it's easier than saying ladies and gentlemen. It's non-descriptive. I get in trouble from Wheezy Mouse all the time. If I say fellas, okay, and I'm talking about the boys, okay? And I hope I stopped using that. I was terrible. I went back and looked at some of my older videos, and I used a lot of fellas, so I'm trying to use guys. All right. So anyway, the techniques that are used in this game, you got to use them in real life, and it works, and it depends on what bait you're using, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And there's not very many techniques to fishing, to catching fish. I mean, you have what we're going to talk about first, float fishing, or what we call here on this side of the pond, bobber fishing, right? And you have lure fishing, and lure fishing would include fly fishing, technically, because it is a lure. And what is lure fishing? Well, I'm going to go down through and explain it, but just to get off the bat, just to hit you with the basics, you got float fishing, in which you present a live bait to a fish on a bobber, float fishing. You have lure fishing. Well, what's lure fishing? You present a replica of a live bait to a fish on a pole. Fly fishing, what do? You present a replica of a fly, a bug, to a fish on a pole. So that's lure fishing. The flies, your hard baits, your jigs, no matter what it is, it's still a lure. And you don't put live baits. But you can now. And in the real world, you can. That's one of the things you can do. You can take a live bait and stick it on a jig and put it on a bait caster and use it and catch fish. All right. So there are no real rules at all in the real world. You can use what you want just to catch the fish. That's all. Catch the fish. That's how it is. So we're going to talk about these things over here. We're going to talk about how we can utilize those techniques in Fishing Planet and what it means to us to use them. So let's jump over. Where you at here, Buck? Okay, you need to get the Fishing Planet live up. Let's do that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now jump over here to your inventory. All right, there you go. And let's go over there now. All right, guys. So what we got here. We're going to talk about float fishing. Okay, float fishing. And in our game, we have what's called a telefloat, and this is a telescopic rod, and it's got a bobber hooked up with it, and a hook and bait, and that's float. That's a float fishing. You're a float fish. The next, oh, by the way, guys, from the last video, I went up there and had to start the club and went up to Emerald and caught a whole bunch of stuff on that 3 gear I got. So I bought a whole bunch of new gear. Maybe we'll talk about that in the video, but if you guys are coming in the beginning series here, this was the stage that you needed to do it. As you can see, I leveled up a little bit from level 16. Okay, so a float rod here. Here's another one, Omni Float. Now this is a match rod. You can cast this farther than you can a telescopic rod. But then, the telescopic rod is 14. Now all these telescopic rods in the shops are very long, 14 foot, 23 foot are your big guys, and they can throw out there and they can flip pretty far. However, when you're down at the low levels like this, a match rod's always going to outperform this guy. This match rod throws farther than that little guy does. So I picked up on one of these. Of course, we still got our spinning rod here. Now there's the lure. So there's our lure fishing. Here's our float fishing. And of course, I picked up a bottom rod, i.e. a feeder rod, small. This was the big alley. So I picked up on him, and that gives us our bottom rod. So there's our 4 main rods that we need, our 4 type of fishing styles that we're going to do. So we're on the bottom. We've got lure fishing. We've got float fishing. And of course, this is float fishing too. So float fishing, why do we do it? Well, it's been around for years and years and years and years. Let me get my little stupid thing here. I was going to do that. Is that carry on control left up? Nope, that's gotta be right. There it is. All right. So float fishing's been around for years, guys. And that's a method that you can catch any type of fish. If any type of fish you can catch float fishing. You're throwing live bait, number 1. So you got a head start on everything. I mean, that's what lure fishing and everything else is all about, trying to mimic live bait. Well, you're using live bait. So, go figure. All right. So, what do we like about it? Well, with float fishing, you can predetermine what depth you're going to fish at. You can set that bobber length anywhere you want to go. So we're over here. We're looking over here. So you can. My head's not in the way. You can still see this. So you can see our bobber here. We can set that depth from, depending on the bobber that you have on. And I'm going to have, the link is going to be down there. I have a video on all these bobbers. I'm just going to browse over them in this video. But I have a complete video on every bobber, and you really need to watch it because I go over every one of them, the casting power, what they do, everything, which ones for depth and long distance casting and deep bobbers, because they're all different. And you need to learn your equipment. You need to know about these bobbers. And I have another video out there, so you can check it out. It's in the description. But we got a sport bobber on this one. It's light. We're using bloodworms, so not a problem there. But this is a sport bobber on this guy. So he's a float guy. And we're throwing bloodworms on him, right? So this allows me to set the depth of where in the water column I want that bait to sit. And that's what's so great about float fishing. Okay. Now, what else does it do? Well, you can reach places that you can't reach maybe you can't cast somewhere. There's an overhanging tree, and you can't throw your line in there. You can't throw a lure in there. You can't even throw a live bait in there. So you rig up a bobber. You got a float rig in there. If you got current in that water, then now you're set. You throw out. You let the current drag that bobber right into the area that you want to fish, and so it gives you the ability to present bait in ways you normally wouldn't be able to. Right? So you get around a lot of things. Makes it very versatile, no matter where you're at, no matter what waterway you're on. Now, also gives you a bite indicator. I mean, you got a bobber sitting on top of the water. You can watch it go up and down if a fish is nibbling or biting on your bait. So there it is. You don't have to feel it. You can put it in a rod stand. Red and I, when we're out, a lot of times we'll float fish, but you don't have to put the float out there. We'll bottom fish, okay? But we don't have bite alarms, but we'll hook up a bobber between the guides. So you can pull down your guide a little bit. If you've got a sinker out there and you're using your spinning rod as a bottom rod with a sinker and a Carolina rig or something like that out there, you got that out in the water, you can put a bobber right on, put it in the rod stand, pull a little bit of line in there and stick a bobber on there, and it sits there. If it slams up against your rod, okay, bite indicator. So you can use these bobbers for a lot of things. So, but in this game, we use them for float fishing. Not that. You can't hook them on a spinning rod in this game, unfortunately. Okay, so this is what we're going to do with these guys. So it allows you to see that bite. Now, in order to execute this stuff properly, guys, you got to do your homework with float fishing. You got to find a place that's suitable to, to be able to throw it out, and the environment has to be correct for that. You definitely want to look for like wood transitions. If you've got sunken trees and stuff like that, that's perfect bobber fishing. You can drop it in there all around them, and just drop a line down in there amongst the sunken trees or a fallen tree that's in the water. You don't have to worry about trying to pull a lure and trying to jig it and move it. You can throw that bobber in there and let it sit down in there with that live bait. Very good for that kind of stuff. So around weeds, drop it in weeds, it'll drop right down in the middle of weeds. If you're dragging a lure with hooks on it, through a weed bed, we all know what that's like. You're cleaning weeds off your hooks every cast. But, so, there again, good benefit to that. So, you got to do your homework. So, read the water. Look for your woods. Look for an appropriate place to do that. Know the homework on your target fish. Where do they feed at? Do they feed on the bottom? Do they feed on the top, mid-column? Okay. What do they feed on? What's their primary food? The size of this fish that you're going after. Get that appropriate because you want everything balanced. The size of your hook, size of your bait. You don't want to be sticking 4-inch chubs on a number 8 hook if you're going after bluegill. I mean, okay, that's just doesn't make sense. So don't do that kind of stuff. Okay, so all that, and you want to know your bite times. When do these guys feed? Or did they feed in the morning? Did they feed at night, in the afternoon, in the day? Okay. Do your homework on your fish. Okay, and then know your water depth. Now, there's ways to figure out the water depth, especially in this game. If you got a feeder pole on you, a bottom rod, throw the bottom rod in right where you want to fish, and it'll tell you how deep it is. As soon as the sinker hits the bottom, it tells you how deep it is. So now with your float gear, okay, I know how deep my water is, and I can adjust my float accordingly and do it that way. Now, if you don't have that, well, then you got to find the bottom with the float, with a little trial and error there. And we're gonna jump over, and I'm gonna show you a couple of these techniques. I'm on mud water right now tonight, so once I get through this last couple of little notes here, we're gonna jump over to mud water. I got my gear here, so we'll kind of go over some of the things that I just talked about. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. So balance your gear, guys. Balance your gear. You want to make sure that your bait size, your hook size, your leader length, and your target fish all jives. It's all karma. Don't go overboard on any one thing. If you're going after smaller fish, it's smaller hooks, it's smaller bobbers, it's a different type of bobber, it's a different type of fish. Know your fish, know what you're after, and you'll be more successful. Right? Now, the types of floats. Now, there's in the game, there's all kind of floats, but we'll run them down real fast. Like I said, watch the bobber video that I did, and you'll learn all about them. But basically, you've got a slim float, okay? That's for short casts, non-reactive baits. So, that's like your cheeses, your bread, things that don't react, don't swim, don't crawl. You don't want reactive live bait on a slim bobber, okay? Now, your oval. Good all around. That's a good all around bobber right there. And then you have a chubby. He's better for your long casts and your heavier baits. For your chubbies, you have a sport bobber like I have right here on the telefloat. Now that's a finesse bobber. That's thin line. You got, I'm running 2-pound line, I think here. I'm catching finicky fish. So it's perfectly okay. That's a perfect setup. You can feel your bite real easy. And you got to remember one thing about bobbers. Your bobber resistant means a lot to fish. If they go up there and they nibble, and it's a finicky fish that doesn't want to feel any type of hesitation. So if you got a big chubby on there and you got a bloodworm on there, a bobber that's too big, not balanced for your gear, what you're running with, you'll see, and even in this game, if you go down to Quanskin, you can look in the water and you can see the fish. If you you don't believe me, over rig it and watch what happens. And the fish will come up. You'll get dings, and they will hit your bait and spit it. You'll get misses all the time because they feel that tension, they feel that pressure on there, and they're gone. And it's because your bobber's too damn big for the type of fish that you're fishing for. So keep that in mind. Okay, so tell me now your sports. That's the finesse. Now your ball bobbers. Now, do we have one? Do I have one? I normally right away I get them. Okay, I do. So we have a ball bobber. This is what we got right here. This is your ball bobber, extra high weight. Man, we all fish with them. They're plastic bobbers, and they don't sink. And best thing I figure out, you're going to buy one that you can use 24 hours. You can see this in the daytime. You can see it at nighttime. And these bobbers last a whole long time in this game. I'm still using some bobbers I'm level 80 and I haven't worn one out yet. Now I have a lot of them and I use them differently for what I'm doing, but I got a couple that have finally gotten down to where they're in the yellow, but that's what I'm saying. Pick one that you can use around the clock and save yourself some money. All right? Do that. All right, so we got that. Now your ball bobbers. That's the big guy, large fish, catfish, things like that. Now, what do you have else left? No, we can't get them yet. I do have one. I was able to get one. How was I able to get one? I guess that came available at level 30. We got two more. That's a slider and a waggler in the game. And those are for real. And the sliders are used more for real deep fishing, and the wagglers are used more for shallow fishing. And they're weighted up by split shots, and so they've been around a real long time. They're great bobbers. They're great floats. They use them over in Europe a lot more than we use them here in the United States. And if you watch my bobber videos, you'll see the difference on how far you can. You throw a slider or a waggler on your line, and the distance in cast. I did all my testing at Lone Star. I stood down there on the dam with a slider and threw it over the bridge. So you can throw them a long way. But like I say in my video there, who the hell wants to give a fish a 300-foot head start? Get over there closer, unless you can't. That's all, unless you can't. But anyway, guys, that's not what we're here to talk about. Watch the video. You'll learn all about all these different bobbers. They're pretty cool. All right, so that takes care of the bobbers. Now, on to the next one, lure fishing. Where's that? Number three, lure fishing. Now, this has been around for thousands of years because somebody figured out, okay, it's a lot of hard work digging up worms and finding grubs, and we get one bait, one fish. So somebody come up with a way of, all right, smart human beings that we are, ingenuity, let's make something that we can use multiple times. Sense? Now, I don't know if that's true, but I'm an intelligent man. At least my dog tells me that. So I kind of figured that out. I don't know. Let's figure out a way to catch multiple fish on one worm. So, lures were invented. That's what we got here. All different colors. Everybody thinks they know the best lure, the best. And what are all these things? Another way to mimic live bait, and then all their bells and whistle colors in order to use the sun and the moon's light to attract the strike of a fish. And that's what it's all about, lure fishing. So, they're great for figuring out where the fish are. So you throw a casting spoon on there, or a spinner, or a jig for locating fish. That's the quickest way to find where the fish are at, because you're covering a lot of ground. Throw it out there, pull it back. Use it like a clock from your boat or your bank, wherever you're posted up. Go like a clock. Cast, see where you find fish. Go back, find fish. Use these lures to do that. And you can find, and then you can zero in, get more specific on the type of fish you're catching. If you've got live bait, then at that point, or and go bigger. However, So you go for something in the middle zone, try to catch something in smaller fish. Go after them. You never know. If you've never been on the water before. If you've been on these waters, you know where they're at. Well, of course, you want to load up. You know where the big guys are lurking out at. Don't play around with little ones. Go after them big guys. So your bright baits on sunny days, guys. That's just basically a rule of thumb. Everybody argues about all the colors. Just the basics are: if it's sunny out, a bright bait. It reflects. Okay, reflection, sun, silver, higher reflection. If it's a sunny day and the water's dirty, though, go to gold. Gold will reflect more in dirty water. Okay. Red versus white when it comes to depth. Okay, two-tone lures. In the old days, there only were red and white lures. Why? Because red, and you can see there's a red and white daredevil right on the screen in front of you there. Because red and white was two sides of the spectrum. Red disappears at depth. White does not. Red is visible at surface level. White is harder to see. So it's basically an all-around lure. You can fish it shallow. You can fish it deep. Something on that lure is going to be seen. That's what it's all about. No more, no less. There's no science behind it. It's just light spectrum and what disappears. That's why you have red braid. It disappears deeper. So if you're going to a lot of fish, catfish and things like that, deep water, they're very sensitive to bait, shiny things. You use discolored hooks, carp are the same way, and you use red braided line. So because if you're deep, the line goes away, they can't see it. That's what it's all about, color there. So that's all. Clear water, silver, overcast or cloudy, gold. Dirty water, gold. All right. Now, what's some of the other things? Did you forget anything, Buck? Because I know you had some side notes here. You talked about float resistance. Okay, good. Trolling. That's the other thing. That's the other way of fishing. We don't have it yet. Hopefully, we're going to get it here soon. I think early 2024. But we're going to get our new map. We'll be trolling. Guys, you can... In the game, we'll only be able to troll, I guess, legitimately. I mean, we do it here at the lodge. We got a bunch of guys here that know how to troll. With some of the boats that we currently have in the game, and you can do it, but it's difficult because the game didn't make it allowable for you. But you can do it. Now it's going to become allowable. We're going to troll. We're going to have the right gear, the right systems, to be able to go out there and troll. In real life, you can troll out damn near anything. You got a kayak. My kayak, I put two out the back and paddle it. I'm trolling with two different ones. So you can troll. And basically you're just dragging a lure over a long distance. So you can find fish quick that way. And that's the other way. That's your other fishing technique that's out there in the real water is trolling. Other than the commercial guys, they use nets and stuff like that. But for us anglers, that's what we do. Those are kind of it. So we float fish, we lure fish, which includes fly fishing. We troll. That's how we go after those big guys. Nothing better than a one-on-one with light gear and a nice big old bass. Nothing better than that. So let's jump over here. Buck, get your head out of the way. There it is. Yeah, you got the buttons right. Let's jump down. Where you at? Let's see what we can do here. Do we have any current here? Let's jump down to the game. Real quick here. What do we have here? 24 minutes. I can wrap this up in a 30-minute video. All right. So we're out here. Oh, wrong pole, Buck. Pull out something. Stop float to it. All right. There we go. We got a bobber. Now, what's nice, this river's got flow to it, but it's not a lot. But it's F11. We'll just do something close here so we can keep it close. So F11, for you guys that are beginning, like when you have a float rod like that, the F11 key it'll turn it out into a casting rod where then you have your ability to throw it as far as it can throw. All right. As far, a good match rod out there. Or you can F11 it again, toggle it, and it makes it a flipping stick. So then you just basically you get to flip, and it's normally about each rod, depending on the length of that rod, you'll get more. You'll get more distance out of it. As you can see now, I'm flipping crickets here. mud water is good for crickets. There's a lot of crappie stuff, and the catfish like the crickets there and things like that. And these guys here, bluegills. But so we're sitting here now. Where are we at with our bobber? Let's take a look. Now you got a couple of ways of doing this. You can either quickly go to your inventory with the I key, and you can adjust from here by grabbing the bobber or using the up and down arrows here for 20 up. You can increase your length, how far up the bobber goes up the line, or bring it down this way, or you can grab the bobber itself and move it around to exactly where you want it. I think I've been fishing here at about 22, 23 inches, something like that. And now, as far as the bottoms go, now we're at 22 inches. Now the bobber's standing straight up. Now, I don't know how deep this is. Let's to save time. Okay, let's pull out our feeder rod. It's gonna be tough. Well, we'll do it right here. I think I can hit both of them right here. Oh boy, that's gonna be real tight, Buck. How about do it on the downswing? It'll be easier. There it is. Okay, right there is 1.7 feet. How many inches is that, guys? Figure it out. Huh? Nope, that's the wrong line. 12 inches for the foot. About 22 inches, I'd say. Somewhere around. So, let's put this. We're at 22. I'm gonna say 20. Go to 23 and see if it flops on the bottom. No, it's deeper than 23. Oh, I raised it the wrong way. No wonder. All right. Try 26 here. There we are. So, you see how the bobber sits at a 45-degree angle. Well, it was until that fish come over there and took it on us. All right, we'll take you, Mr. Crappie. That kind of tells you that because I kept going down. Now it might be an inch, it may be an inch higher at this point, but that tells you you've just hit the bottom. And the way I know I'm right on the bottom is if it bounces like it's doing now, and then all of a sudden it kind of stands up a little bit, and then it goes back down to the 45. Then I know I'm right on the bottom, and it's just kind of because you see the flow is not moving my float hardly at all. So the bait's kind of tugging. It can get caught on a rock, which is goofy because crickets float. I don't know how this is happening, but let's not go into the physics of the whole thing. I don't have a weight holding that cricket down there. So if I got 24 inches of line out from underneath of that bobber, you can bet your ass it's laying on the surface in the real world. Because that's a cricket. It's not going to sink unless I'm using lead line. But we're going to pretend that it sinks. So anyway, we're on the bottom, and that's how you tell your bottom depth when you're using a float rod. Okay. And what else did I want to show you guys while we were here? We're totally I can't show you. And pretty much to figure out. Oh, something to think about here. Oh, let's go over here, Buck. All right. I think we got current going this way. Let's throw this out like this. Now, if you're in current like this, yeah, this is good. We're going the right way. Now, we're out there 23. It's like, I'm only going to get so far around those weeds. And then it's going to pull my bobber. And, the current's going to pull it tight if it doesn't hit the bottom first. Man, the current is a lot slower. It probably is. It probably is on the bottom. Let's do this for this explanation. Not 3. Okay, we'll make it like 13 inches. All right, throw it out there so I can show these guys. All right, so now I know it's going to float and it's not going to get hung up. So as the current pulls my bobber, now as float fishing goes, guys, the thing to remember is when I get to the end of this line, when it becomes taut, the current will naturally pull that bobber towards the bank. All right, just because that's physics. That line's going to come to the left like it's doing. Now, if you want it to continue in this game, you back it up to the bottom right. Look how the arrow's going the other way. And now I'm winding and I'm letting out line. I didn't do it soon enough. The current's still going to take it into the weeds on me. But you can let out the line and it'll keep taking it downstream on you. Okay, so we're at the end of our rope here. We'll just make it go fast. All right, backwards and just wind it out. You get to the point where you're at the end of your rope and you want the bobber to keep moving down a certain waterway and you want it to keep moving for you. You can just keep feeding it line like you would with a fly rod. You were fishing a fly in a stream and you're dry fishing that fly and you're floating it down the rocks. You feed it out, feed that line out, let the current take it. Let the current move the bait for you. Because that's what fish are looking for, especially if they live in a waterway that has flow. They find where the least amount of flow is for them to just sit and ambush as the current brings the bait by them. All right, guys. Well, that's a quick one on the techniques of the fishing that we got here. Let's move over here, Buck. Pull it over there. There you go. Not too bad. All right. Did we get it? At 32 minutes. Sorry about that. Maybe I can shorten it up on the editing table. I'll cut something out. Maybe me talking the whole time. Anyway, there, quick and dirty for you beginner guys there. So you understand a little bit about the float fishing, the techniques behind it. You know, use your noggin up there. You can figure it out there. Remember, try to keep everything in balance and you'll be more successful. You get more bites. You know, if you're not over bobbered or overhooked, underhooked, overbaited, that's just as important as do you have the right size stick to hunt your prey. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hey, never, ever give up the fight. Tight lines. We'll see you later. Listen to the crickets sing, the rattle of a dog chain. Listen to the southbound breeze just creeping through the trees.